Okay, welcome to part one of our digestion video. If you have the handout, that would be great. If you don't, you should print it because you need this picture of the digestive system and you have to label not all of these parts, but lots of them. So it's good to have that diagram. I do have more at school. Anyway, I am not going to read these slides to you. You will have to pause this video to write stuff down, but I am going to add stuff in. So I actually would recommend that you maybe watch through this without any sound on so that you can write down everything in yellow and then come back and listen to the lecture. It is 15 minutes, but I'm going to give you lots of tricks to help you remember this stuff and also to make it more interesting. And I'm going to tell you in this short video how I almost died, how my uncle did die. I'm going to save your life at least 3 times, and I'm going to tell you the worst way to die. So it's a little bit morbid, trying to keep it interesting. Digestion, super cool. First cool thing is whatever you put in your mouth will come right out the other end, except for the nutrients that we have to have. There is a way for them to get absorbed into our body. But if you swallow a marble, it will come right out the other end. All that nasty stuff that's in a Twinkie, most of that will come right out the other end. So our body does a really good job of keeping us safe because our digestive system is just a tube. You do need to know all of these main functions. Again, the difference between physical and chemical, if you didn't remember that from last year, physical change means it's just getting into a smaller part, but it's the same thing. Chemical changes, we make a new substance. So we're going to talk about how those main macromolecules that we eat, so carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins, where they get digested. And we have to take that polymer and break it into its little tiny monomer pieces. So that's where the chemical change happens, and obviously other changes. The rest of the stuff, at least 2 and 3, are pretty obvious. Number 4, we have our favorite word of homeostasis. I will talk about these as we go through, but those are the ways that our digestive system keeps our internal body in balance, and that's what makes us feel good. So, a couple fun facts. Your digestive system is very long in distance, which I should have shown you in class, and it takes a really, really long time. So the food that's at the bottom of your track right now, sitting in your colon, was food that you ate a couple days ago. Men tend to digest faster than women. Kids are super fast. Dogs are super fast. If you want to know how long your digestive system takes, think about the last time you ate corn, which might have been Thanksgiving dinner, or have some corn tonight. We actually can't digest that outer covering of a corn kernel, so you will see it come out the other end. So when you see it in the toilet, think back to when you ate the corn and you can count the hours for your system to work. Okay, if you have the notes, there's a table on the back. You need to fill out that table. If you don't have the notes, again, this is everything you have to know. So I would make it into a table in your notes. I'm just going to add extra stuff. So here is our first chemical digestion. Amylase is an enzyme, so enzymes always end in ASE. That's how you know they're an enzyme. The Amy enzyme comes from your mouth. I remember that because Amy likes to talk and she likes bready foods. So I'm a girl, I like to talk, and I like donuts. I wish my name were Amy. It would make this easier to help you remember. But Amy is the enzyme in your salivary glands. If you can gleek, that comes from a salivary gland under your tongue. And if you can make that salivary gland shoot out saliva, you just have a better muscle down there than most of us. My muscle to wiggle my ears works really well. Maybe your muscle to shoot that salivary gland or contract it works, and you can spit saliva out. So, 2 types of digestion. Carbohydrates digested in the mouth by Amy because she likes to talk. Okay, your salivary glands, food doesn't go in there, but they're obviously important because they make saliva. Saliva helps moisten that food. Also, it creates your own personal bad breath. So everybody's mouth smells and probably tastes a little bit differently depending on their saliva. Also, you may get more plaque than other people. That also could be because of the chemical composition of your saliva. And your saliva will allow different types of bacteria to survive in your mouth, which also adds to that wonderful morning breath that we have. When you're sleeping all night, we don't swallow as much. All that bacteria that's stuck between your teeth or up in your gums can just reproduce and flourish, and it doesn't get washed down your throat. And so that is also what makes our morning breath smell, which is pretty similar to most people, but a little bit different because of your own personal saliva. So, yummy. Okay, the pharynx is the part of your throat where food and air go. That's pretty much all you need to know. The epiglottis, super important. Again, it's not really an organ, it's just a flap of cartilage that lives at the top of your trachea. So your pharynx splits into your esophagus and into your trachea, which leads to your lungs. And that separation is closed by that epiglottis. So when you swallow, food will push the epiglottis down. Also, the epiglottis is attached to the muscle at the root of your tongue. So when you are swallowing and your tongue is helping to push that food down, it also contracts and shuts the epiglottis. So if you choke, it's because food went into your lungs and not into your esophagus. Um, Here are some ways I'm going to save your life. Don't talk with food in your mouth because then your brain gets confused. Am I swallowing air? Am I swallowing food? And sometimes the epiglottis, because you're trying to talk and breathe while you're also trying to swallow, food will go down the wrong pipe and you can choke. Um, Eating dinner or eating a meal with really funny people is actually super dangerous because laughing requires lots of air. So while you're trying to breathe and laugh, your brain gets mixed up, your tongue might not be trying, or food might go down because you're trying to breathe and you have all this food in your mouth, but then your esophagus doesn't shut, which is what happened to me. I was at dinner with some friends at their house, and we were laughing, and I had a really fatty piece of meat, and I was trying to be polite and not spit it out in a napkin. So I was chewing and chewing and chewing for forever. I had to take a breath. That piece of meat slid down, and it went into my larynx, and it got lodged right on top of my voice box. So if you are choking, but you can make noise, you can be like, ah, I'm okay. You're fine. You're not going to die. If you are choking and you cannot talk, that's because the food is actually in your airway and you will suffocate. So that's the symbol for choking. It took a while for my friends to realize that I wasn't talking. One of them came and did the Heimlich. That hunk of fatty meat went flying out of my mouth and across the room, and she saved my life. It was terrible. I couldn't talk about this for a couple years. It happened, I think, 7 years ago. But be careful when you're eating is the main point there. So I saved your life. Don't talk of food in your mouth. Don't laugh while you're eating is super dangerous. My uncle died from choking in a super fancy restaurant in Cincinnati, Ohio, and that was about, actually, I don't know. I think his incident happened before mine. He wasn't a blood relative. It was my aunt's second husband. So anyway, his problem was Heimlich didn't work on him because number one, he was an alcoholic, so he was drinking a lot. Alcohol relaxes your muscles, and the people doing the Heimlich couldn't get enough tension underneath his lungs by his diaphragm to force that food back out. So don't drink too much alcohol because maybe you'll choke and they won't be able to save your life. So there, I just saved your life. And I told you how my uncle almost died. This is a picture of the top of your esophagus. Nothing happens here, it's just a tube, but it's super important because if you don't chew your food up all the way, that esophagus is a muscle and it squeezes the food down into your stomach. That's called peristalsis. It's such a strong action that you can actually drink liquids upside down because it'll push the food where it needs to go. Your stomach is lined with mucus. We'll talk about that in a second. Your esophagus is not. So when people say they have heartburn, they're actually feeling that stomach acid coming up into their esophagus and it's eating away at that muscle lining and it hurts. Okay, so then we take a medicine to neutralize that acid. But heartburn is not a heart issue, it's actually a digestive issue. So just know the esophagus is that tube. The stomach, super important. Lots of cool facts too. Food stays there for a while. It can be really tiny or it can get up to a gallon in volume. It can get huge. We'll talk about gastric bypass surgery and people getting their stomach stapled or a sleeve put on it at the end. But it is pretty big. And not a whole lot happens in here. Acid is made by the lining in your stomach. That hydrochloric acid is very strong. If you could pour it straight on the carpet, it would burn a hole in the carpet. If you remember a couple years ago, the high school got shut down because a teacher spilled acid. It was actually hydrochloric acid, not from her stomach. It wasn't me, but actually from the jug. And it was terrible. All right, so really bad fumes, but that same acid lives in your stomach and it would eat a hole in your stomach wall, except that your stomach is lined with mucus. When you throw up, there's lots of yellowy stuff that comes up in your puke. That is that mucus that lines your stomach. When you throw up, you've probably also noticed it burns your throat. That's because it's that acid coming out in that vomit. It's also really bad for your teeth. So after you get sick, once you feel good enough, you need to brush your teeth and clean that acid off of your teeth because it eats away at your enamel. People that are bulimic or have that eating disorder where they force themselves to throw up often have really bad teeth because of all that acid that keeps corroding their enamel on their teeth. So other cool stuff here, make sure you know what's in yellow. Most importantly, we have another enzyme. This is called pepsin. It's actually called pepsinase. Pepsinase is specifically the enzyme, but pepsin in general includes lots of pepsinase types enzymes that digest proteins. So P for pepsin, P for protein. That's how I remember that, and it is made in the stomach. Lipase also comes in here, but we don't talk about that. It digests lipids, and I think it's made in the stomach, but obviously I forgot about it, and you don't have to know it. So hydrochloric acid not only breaks down our food, any of that nasty stuff, so if you have cooties on your food because you touched it with your hands or somebody served it to you and they had dirty hands, you're usually okay because hydrochloric acid will kill all that bacteria. So pepsin in there to digest protein, hydrochloric acid. I'm going to save your life again, and this will be the end after we talk about the stomach. When you drink alcohol or if you take pain pills like aspirin or ibuprofen, those chemicals get absorbed into your bloodstream right through your stomach wall. So alcohol poisoning happens if you drink a lot very quickly. All that alcohol gets into your blood and starts poisoning your brain. It's not anything we want, but you won't even feel the effects of alcohol before it's in your blood system. So it takes a while for you to actually feel that buzz, but you could be very, very drunk, and that's where people die of alcohol poisoning because all that alcohol goes right through their stomach lining. They don't even realize they've had that much to drink, and all of a sudden their body is in a bad situation. So you guys should not be drinking alcohol. There are lots of reasons with your brain that you shouldn't be doing that, and I would love to talk about that. You can ask me questions, but the drinking age is there for a reason. Also because people who are young are usually too stupid and they want to drink really fast to be cool and hang out with their friends, and they end up poisoning their body before they even know they're drunk. So do not drink alcohol at all or quickly. We'll stop there. So far you've learned that carbohydrates are digested in the mouth, proteins are digested in your stomach, a couple other cool facts, and we will finish the rest in video number 2.